Hello and welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games. This is the ELD Premodern Open, New England Premodern, Massachusetts monthly. The rest crew out there drumming up interest in this format. Good to see everybody once a month. This one's actually coming up this Saturday if you're watching this on release. If not, check the calendar. We'll be doing it every month moving forward, have been for quite some time. Something I look forward to. Also gives me good reason to make sure every table in the store is clean, ready to go as we fill this place right up. We've got Justin here on Tidenought, Micah on Replenish, both of them playing the Boogeyman Parallax Tide, a card that can absolutely decimate the opponent's mana base. Of course, it is a 4-mana sorcery speed card. If there's going to be a best card, I'd probably rather it be something along those lines, rather than an incredibly low-costed card like Mental Misstep that everyone kind of has to play. If you are committing to a sorcery speed double blue spell, you are going to potentially have a hard time with those faster red decks that exist. Seal of Cleansing, going to have some options here against Tidenought. I can stem the bleeding from a Mishra's Factory, or just stick around to try and take out a Phyrexian Dreadnought. And we see Flash of Insight, the first kind of parity breaker. That card is relentlessly good at what it does. Now, what it does is fairly subtle. You're just drawing a card for 3 mana. That is not amazing. However, the fact that the flashback is there, ready to go, just creates card advantage no matter what. No matter what happens. If your opponent counters both sides of it, or if they counter just the back half, you're still up a card. That really is what that card's about. One of those things that can actually let you pull back into a game. A couple of Flash of Insights can potentially make up for your opponent resolving some earlier card drawing. And probably the biggest improvement in terms of the mono blue versus the blue white. Of course, blue white had access to Meddling Mage and Swords to Plowshares, but in between the stronger mana base, allowing for better use of Gush and subsequently Foil, but also leaning more into it with Flash of Insight. And of course, Flash of Insight can be discarded to Foil as well. A very useful card to be discarding, giving you a larger hand size to a degree, kind of that 8th card sitting there ready to be fired off. And Justin just getting after it, turn sideways. You want to use your Seal of Cleansing on my Factory, I am totally fine with that. He's got 4 mana available. Actually going to discard. Looks like he may have been willing to stifle the Seal of Cleansing activation, if it came to that. Micah holding on to it. And now we have a Frantic Search. Opalescence previously cast and countered. Doesn't do a ton on its own, but once you get the Parallax cards in play, it is a nightmare. And now Attunement. This is really the engine of the deck, and a card that some people think might be a good card to hit if Replenish does become too good. I'm not totally convinced on that. It does dig deeper than Frantic Search, but it is an enchantment. Has that synergy with the rest of the deck. But Frantic Search is also a hell of a magic card. Effectively free. Justin just drawing a ton of cards, which is really what his deck is intending to do. Accumulated knowledge. Finding room for the set of those really gives you a ton of ability to grind as the game goes on. And now we have a Phyrexian Dreadnought. Despite the Seal of Cleansing on board, he's just going to go ahead and play a Vision Charm and look to play through this Seal of Cleansing. And Vision Charm, going to go ahead and respond with popping the Seal of Cleansing. And we've got a Stifle to stop that. Mike is going to need to use the stack from here. Any counter spells from hand, perhaps? No, a Swords to Plowshares. And now another Vision Charm. So going to go ahead and try and phase that out in response to everything. So Justin passing the turn with a phased out Phyrexian Dreadnought. Able to gush, replay a land. Full grip. Things are going well. Actually discarding down to hand size. Let's see what Micah can do. This can all be for naught if he can resolve or replenish. A Parallax Wave. That eats a vanilla counterspell. And now an Opt. Yeah, Parallax Wave would be a very good answer to the Phyrexian Dreadnought as well. Of course, when it comes back, now you're going to need your Vision Charm or Stifle effect again just to keep it around. And 14 coming in. So down to just 1. It's now or never for Micah. Let's see what he can do. It's like, I'm going to have to be careful. Going to Frantic Search. Can't take any mana, any damage from his Adhikar Wastes. And a Replenish. There's the namesake card. Gush in response. If this resolves, it is likely over. And a foil stops the Replenish. And he's got the second one. Does Justin have another piece of interaction? Oh, he's got a heartbreaking one. Floating a blue, Daze. Free counterspell. Stopping Micah from coming right back into that game. That really would have been over if that resolved. Replenish with Parallax Wave and Opalescence. That's going to be a nightmare to try and play through. Almost impossible. Justin on the draw, mulls to 6. See if he mulls toward a more controlling hand or a early Dreadnought. At least it's not a turn 2 Dreadnought. Racking a fetch land. Actually using a Stifle on a fetch. Don't tend to see that one nearly as often, though the mana base is something that Justin's going to be interested in going after with his Parallax Tide in his sideboard. Ancient Tomb, one of those cards that makes Replenish so dangerous. Just powering out basically a full turn earlier than they would otherwise be able to do. And of course that does kind of multiply out when you have multiple Ancient Tombs. Eventually playing around Daze as well. But the life loss is not inconsequential. Not to sound too scrubby. Ancient Tomb is one of the finest cards ever printed. Good enough to see vintage play. But the longer the game goes, the more Ancient Tomb can potentially become a bit of a liability. It is the type of thing that you want to be ending games quickly and violently with. We have tapping out for a Flash of Insight. And Micah going to go ahead and play a Factor Fiction. That's really an incredibly powerful effect. Factor Fiction can basically add an Ancient Tomb to hand or get attunement into the bin. Looks like he opts to just keep the Factor Fiction plus an Ancient Tomb. Attunement made its way into the graveyard. Replenish resolves. That'll be useful, but for the most part, the game will be pretty close to over at that point. Just need to create a solid enough graveyard in that Replenish And we don't have Yawgmoth's Will, but it is right up there. And now another Fact or Fiction. This time, Justin has some mana to pay for it. End step. Fact or Fiction is one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. He did use a counterspell, and now Micah leading out with an Orim's Chant. Justin gushing in response. Wow. He's going to go ahead and foil the chant. This 1 mana spell. Going to go ahead and discard, including a Daze. And now Parallax Tide. That gets annulled. Wow. That is a lot of no sir from Justin's side of the table. AK for 1. Micah currently stopped in his tracks. You see a flash of insight digging. Presumably going to be looking for some card drawing. Going to look to bury Micah in card disadvantage. That Seal of Cleansing can just kind of sit there until Justin's ready to handle it. It does deter just an explosive push with Dreadnought and Stifle, but the main thing here is making sure that Replenish doesn't actually pop off, even if you get 2 12/12s into play. If Replenish resolves their namesake card and has the graveyard stacked well enough, I mean, it is just a wrap. And we did see in a previous game Justin having access to Brain Freeze, which could very much be a pivot here. Despite Replenish being a graveyard strategy, they don't really have any way of not dying if you Brain Freeze them for their whole library. Parallax Tide gets hit with an annul. Counterspell back. Orim's Chant. Probably. That's potentially fine. If Justin was just planning on stifling anyways, Orim's Chant really won't do a ton. Oh, actually, he has Seal of Cleansings in play, so this is an interesting situation. He's gonna, I believe, want to use Chain of Vapor here. So Parallax Tide will be able to enter. He'll be able to remove 5 counters targeting the lands, and then respond by bouncing. Micah, if he wants, can waste a Seal of Cleansing at this point to prevent the Parallax Tide from coming back down again. And I'm going to assume, since he didn't Chain of Vapor, that Justin must have a Stifle. Works just fine. This goes, we've got a Stifle. Those lands not coming back. Just a couple of Ancient Tombs, colorless lands, low on life. At some point, he will not be able to actually use those lands for mana at all. Another flash of insight from the graveyard. A foil one this time. Just fistfuls of cards. So you find what you're looking for. Justin, 7 islands, just a rock solid mana base. Blue Tide is quite the monster. Oh, a third flash of insight. I believe that was the third. Let me know if I melded that together with a previous game, but another AK this time for 4. And a Chain of Vapor, bouncing a Seal of Cleansing, just to not have to discard the hand size. Parallax Tide, looking to leave Micah with absolutely nothing. Chain of Vapor, bouncing after removing the counters, and Seal of Cleansing is thrown at it. That's totally fine. 0 permanents. How are you going to handle a Dreadnought when you have literally 0 board, no lands, no permanents, no nothing, and Dreadnought finally shows up when the coast is thoroughly clear for Tidenought to really manhandle Replenish there. That was a brutal matchup.